As you and I look out onto the world, as we consider our own lives, we very often think to ourselves, this is not the way things are supposed to be. We desire peace, and instead, there's perpetual war throughout the earth. We desire economic prosperity, and instead, there's economic downturns and all sorts of hardship. We look at our personal lives and we desire health, and yet ourselves and those we love are struck with disease. We want our relationships to be warm and loving, and yet instead, so often, we are divided and caught up in conflict with others. And more than anything, we encounter death. And when we encounter death, deep from within us arises this protest, which says, this is not the way things ought to be. But that's a very strange idea, isn't it? Because the way the world is all we've known all our lives. It would seem that this is the way that things are supposed to be. It would seem to be the case that we should just say, this is what it is. Unless there is some purpose and design which stands behind the universe, that stands behind our world, that stands behind our lives, to which we are supposed to align. Now, if the world is just an accident, if our lives are just an accident, then we can't say that there really is any purpose. And our opinions are really kind of inconsequential unless we happen to be powerful, so that we're strong enough to make the world the way that we want it to be. And of course, this is what people, all the way from tyrants to people that are just abusers, do. They twist and pervert the world into the way that they want it to be. If we're going to protest their designs, if we're going to protest the way the world is, and of course, the great curse of death itself, we must have an explanation for why we would say that the world ought to be any different way. Now, human beings have done their best to try to sort this out, just using our natural intuition. And the way that I would compare this to is, it would be like if you came across a bike in the middle of a jungle, and yet you had never seen a bike before in your life. Now, the bike is beat up, maybe not fully operable, but it's got its wheels. Maybe it's missing the seat post. But you would be looking at this bicycle, and eventually you would sort out, this is something to be used for transportation, to be able to ride in some sort of way. You won't understand it perfectly. You won't be able to operate it quite the way that it's supposed to be operated, but you would get kind of the gist of it, even if there's more wanting in your knowledge. We can say that this is the way in which many human beings have gone about trying to understand God and the nature of our world through their various philosophies in this. It's among these that Christianity comes to the forefront with the one true explanation for why the world is the way that it is, and with an explanation for the way it ought to be. C.S. Lewis puts it this way. He says, now the story of Christ is simply a true myth, a myth working on us the same way as the others, but with this tremendous difference that it really happened. And one must be content to accept it in the same way, remembering that it is God's myth, where the others are men's myths. Now, of course, C.S. Lewis, in saying that Christianity is the true myth, he's not saying that it's lacking historicity. What he's saying is that where all of the other human myths and philosophies we're looking towards, we're trying to figure out, the Christian faith, the testimony of the Bible, all of that fulfills what all of humanity has been looking for. It's the answer that everyone has been trying to figure out to this question of how the world ought to be and how it might become that way. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but the point is this, is that we have been presented with a bunch of puzzle pieces, and the question is what box top seems to match the best among all of the human philosophies and religions? Now, I'm not going to survey all of them. Instead, what I'm just going to do is just present to you the biblical vision, the biblical account of who we were created to be, and to consider, does this match the pieces that we have before us? So I take us to Genesis 1, verses 26 through 28. This is the creation of mankind. It says there, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our image and our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground." Now, looking at those verses and considering the implications of them, doesn't it seem to be a match with our own intuitions about our life here on this world? We do have this sense that human beings are important, that they do have a certain dignity that sets them apart from the rest of the creatures that we find here on earth. Now, that's not to say that we should not care for those creatures. We should. And our understanding of ruling, based on Genesis 1, 26 through 28, is not one of domineering, but of caring and cultivating the earth. All the same, though, there is a distinction between human beings and other creatures, because it is human beings who have been made in the image of God. And because human beings have been made in the image of God, it is they who have been given certain moral expectations. We don't have moral expectations of wild creatures. They run purely on instinct. Human beings, though, we do have moral expectations of, and it's because we have been created in the image of God to know right from wrong, and so to do as God would have us do in accordance with his character. Now, I haven't gotten into all the details about the character of God, but if you go to the rest of the biblical revelation, you would find that God is just, he is merciful, he's perfectly righteous, he is good. And if you really want a picture of who God is, you look no further than Jesus Christ, who is the perfect image of the Father. Essentially, we're supposed to look like Jesus. Now, the trouble, of course, is we don't live like Jesus. We're not living up to our created purpose. We're not reflecting who God is in our lives here on this earth. and self-evident that this is the case. And in the next video, I'm going to cover why that is. Why is it that we're not living up to our created purpose? But it's worth just appreciating this, that our intuitions say the world is not the way that it's supposed to be. We intuit that there's a certain design and purpose for humanity. And when we look at the biblical vision for humanity, we find that it matches up with our own expectations for human beings. Isn't that striking? Isn't it suggestive that perhaps we should dig a little bit more to consider what the Bible might have to show us, and trying to sort out why it is that our world is so messed up and how Christ might be able to fix it. Hey there, thanks for watching this video. I encourage you to like the video, share it with your friends, and to subscribe to the Truth Rooted channel. Truth Rooted is a ministry based out of Rockland Community Church in North Scituate, Rhode Island. I'm the pastor of RCC, Pastor Tom Loghry, and we use these videos in our small groups. We discuss them and use them to kind of help us grow deep in our faith. I encourage you to come visit us if you live in the area and to join our small group so you can get in on the conversation. The name of this series is Our Messed Up World That Jesus Can Fix. We've got some more videos coming out in the series. I encourage you to track with us as we move forward. Catch you in the next video.